Hello and welcome to Pharma Television News Review here at BioEurope in Milan in spring 2011. On this show, I have Cliff Stocks, who is Chief Business Officer at Calistoga Pharmaceuticals. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fintan. It's my pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Calistoga Pharmaceuticals.
Very well. Calistoga Pharmaceuticals is a collection of highly skilled, motivated individuals who were able to create a nice platform and a very good lead compound that ultimately led to an acquisition of Calistoga Pharmaceuticals by Gilead, which was a nice outcome for investors and for patients. Let me tell you a little bit about the origins of Calistoga. So I was the head of business development for IPOs Corporation for 15 years. IPOs was the originator of Cialis and developed that drug through a joint venture with Eli Lilly and Company and commercialized Cialis. And ultimately, because of the success we had with Cialis, we were acquired by Lilly in 2007. IPOs discovered and characterized and cloned and patented the delta isoform of PI3K with the specific intention of developing those compounds for inflammation indications. Okay. And that program was not being funded at IPOs starting in 2005 because the commercialization of Cialis was taking most of the funds. We had stack ranked our portfolio, determined which programs we'd work on and which were still interesting but just would not be funded, and so that was put in my hands to monetize. I was the Vice President of Business Development at IPOs, and we monetized it through a spin-out or through a license structure of license the entire program, the PI3K program, from IPOs to a venture-backed company called Calistoga. We did that with a contingent license. We made it the contingency based on the venture company raising $20 million. So Jamie Topper, who is one of the partners at Fraser Venture Healthcare, led those efforts to build a syndicate, and they raised $26 million, and they were able to license the program from IPOs to Calistoga. Mike Gallatin, who led the efforts at IPOs, he was the Chief Scientific Officer of IPOs, had left IPOs about a year prior to the acquisition of IPOs, and Mike was a venture partner at Fraser Venture, so was very familiar with the program, knew its potential, and was then the founder, the key founder of Calistoga. He recruited two other founders to help him in the money raising and the building of the company. Those individuals were Neil Giese. Neil is a PhD cancer scientist, and Roger Ulrich, who is a development person, and Roger has a long history in the pharmaceutical arena. So the three of them as founders raised the money, built the company, started hiring people. They started with a small team of around 10 people, and sorted through the compounds that they had licensed from IPOs, determined which of those would be moved forward toward inflammation, which would be moved forward toward solid tumors, and which would be moved forward toward hematological malignancies. And the compound in hematological malignancies is called Cal-101. It was pushed first into the clinic, and after conducting a phase 1, the team did a phase 1 study in normals to establish a nice tolerability profile for the compound, and then took it into a phase 1 in patients. And the very first patient they dosed had a PR, so that was a very exciting time for the company. It was on around that time, of course I was staying in touch with my friend Mike Gallatin, on around that time of their first patient dosing, that I circled back and started thinking about how I might work with the team there at Calistoga. In the midst of that, the venture backers, who consisted of Fraser Venture Partners, Alta Ventures, Amgen Ventures, and 3 Arch Ventures, wanted to get a CEO, and they recruited a very terrific CEO, Carol Gallagher. Carol is a PharmD with a strong scientific background, but she has a much stronger commercial orientation, having gotten good training at Amgen, Lilly, and through the Pfizer Oncology Group. Carol also ran Rituxan when it was around $1 billion and grew it to several billion before she left Biogen IDEC, and she was part of the Genentech Roche Biogen IDEC relationship, or the IDEC relationship that ran Rituxan. So Carol had a very strong commercial background in hematological malignancies, and with her vision could see how we were going to take Cal-101 forward for a commercial success, and we were on that track before we were acquired.
It's an amazing story, because clearly what's important from what you just said there was, one, that you had to have the science. The science was obviously came from talented individuals, but what seems to be important was the assembly of the team with different backgrounds, different strengths that could take that platform basically and move it forward.
Yes, it was a strong team. Ultimately, Calistoga was 23 people, and that small team was able to accomplish a great deal with the platform that they had been able to license from Calistoga, which consisted of Cal-101 and other compounds that were in the pipeline.
So, is it possible to repeat the Calistoga story?
It may be. We're trying now. So
you're ready? Thinking about the next
thinking
next
about
deal
the next one. Have identified some in a few companies programs that are being under-resourced, and trying to work with those companies to extract those programs, very similar to the way that we did it between IPOs and Calistoga. I structured that deal for win-win, that if the program was successful, everyone would win and no one felt like they lost anything.
Right. Now, why did Gilead actually buy the company? It didn't have to buy the company.
Well, Gilead's been making a move into oncology, and they've had a strong orientation for inflammation for some time. Of course, their background and strength is HIV and AIDS. They've built their company around that. But recently, Gilead has acquired other companies in the last 6 months, 2 other companies besides Calistoga, to try to make a play into inflammation and oncology. And CGI was one of those examples. They paid about $120 million for that company that was focused on kinases, and it was fairly early stage, but those kinases are going to allow them to move into inflammation and into oncology. And Calistoga was a fit there. So they saw the fit. Clearly there was a fit. And with respect to whether or not they had to buy the company, Calistoga was on a track to make an exit for the investors. And we were working on deals that were ex-North America partnerships, but if anyone wanted North America, it was going to require them to acquire the company.
Right. So in the future, what's going to happen to Calistoga Pharmaceuticals? Is it going to be absorbed into Gilead, or is that the idea, or is it going to still remain as an independent company?
It appears that way. We announced on February 22nd, just recently, the acquisition of Calistoga Pharmaceuticals by Gilead. The deal was $600 million total deal dollars, $375 million upfront, and $225 million in contingent milestones. Those are relatively near term, and relatively achievable, but based on success points of the compound moving forward.
And it's all cash.
It is all cash, yes. And while there were no negotiated guarantees for employees, so no one's bound, the team is very excited about Cal-101 and the rest of the molecules in the portfolio, and the team wants to stay with Gilead. Gilead has a facility in Seattle on South Lake Union. Gilead's they're headquartered in Foster City in California. However, they acquired Chorus Pharmaceuticals a few years back and have housed them in a 5-story building on Lake Union. I think Chorus takes up about 3 stories. They have plenty of capacity and space there. There are discussions ongoing with our employees about which ones would move over to Gilead. So we are certainly hopeful that the key people from the Calistoga team will stay with the program and move into the Gilead facility, and then be able to build a larger team and be able to push Cal 101 to the marketplace faster and broader to do more trials in different patient populations.
Now, you said, already looking at the next potential project. Just in terms of you've been in this business for a while. You've gone through the various companies the ups and downs of the biotech sector, I suppose. How would you remain optimistic? I mean, is this still something that can be achievable, to create a company and to sell it again into the future over the next 5 years? Is that still possible?
Well, I think there's more need than ever for people to create innovation and create early stage companies. I'm not sure it's possible to create a FIPCO or fully integrated pharmaceutical company anymore in the future, but that may not be the model. There's plenty of commercial infrastructure in the world. There's good regulatory infrastructure in the world through large pharma. The development capabilities of large pharma are astounding, the ability that they can move a lot of patients very quickly. Innovation is probably the strength of entrepreneurs in the biotech industry. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs to get an idea, have it funded by venture or other sources, and take it up to a certain point, which is proof of concept or proof of relevancy, and then generally somehow put that in the hands of a larger pharmaceutical partner, either in collaboration, through partnerships, sometimes through licensing of territories. But I think we'll see a lot more M&A, people building an asset up to into phase 2 point and then selling it to pharma.
And with that type of business model, even if the IPO market came back, is it still possible to do an IPO in the future?
It's possible to do an IPO today for some. If you have a good asset, people are getting IPOs done. We thought that we were probably a candidate to do an IPO. We actually had talked to a lot of investors on Wall Street. We were talking to bankers. We were sensing that we were going to get around a $250 to $300 million pre on an IPO. And clearly the valuation that we fetched under the acquisition was greater than that. An IPO in today's environment no longer guarantees an exit for the venture investors. Typically they have to follow the investment or hang on and wait until a future point in inflection when the valuation is much greater. But there are opportunities to do IPOs today. It's just at much more depressed valuations than what the assets are probably worth.
Cliff Stocks, thanks for coming on the show.
Fintan, I appreciate it. Thank you.